Hello, my name is Shane Rogers. Let's briefly discuss the critical issue that affects all living things on the planet, including Earth itself, and that's biodiversity hotspots. What is a biodiversity hotspot? Well, Conservation International defines a biodiversity hotspot as an area that contains at least 1,500 plants that are found nowhere else on Earth and that are under threat with less than one-third of its natural vegetation remaining. Why plants, one might wonder? Well, because it's plants that bring the animals. A more detailed understanding might be that there are 8.7 million species of plants and animals on the Earth. Each of these species have evolved to thrive in specific environmental conditions. An area that is considered a biodiversity hotspot is when it has a high concentration of endemic species found nowhere else on Earth but that ecosystem. Today, there are 36 biodiversity hotspots around the world that contain 44% of the world's plants and 35% of the world's vertebrates. Unfortunately, many of these areas are under pressure from human activity. The top 5 threats to global biodiversity are invasive species, climate change, habitat loss and degradation, overexploitation, and pollution. In the context of a changing climate and growing global population, it's critical to protect and restore biodiversity hotspots. They represent a safe haven providing unique habitat conditions that may not exist anywhere on Earth. The global map here shows the biodiversity hotspots across the planet. A few characteristics of a biodiversity hotspot are a high level of diversity, including a significant number of endemic species, that is, species only located in that ecosystem, so if they go extinct, they are gone forever. Biodiversity needs to be under threat, including possible extinction. Biodiversity hotspots are crucial because they house a large and unique variety of species, many of which are found nowhere else on Earth, and they are at a high risk of habitat destruction. Protecting these hotspots is essential for maintaining healthy ecosystems which provide vital services like food, water, climate regulation, and for mitigating climate change. Protecting these biodiversity hotspots maintains healthy ecosystems, which in turn provides ecosystem services to human beings like clean water, nutritional food, climate regulation, and mitigating climate change. Human communities rely on these resources and services for their livelihood, food, medicine, and materials. Conservation efforts to revitalize biodiversity hotspots are necessary for human well-being. Healthy ecosystems, which equals healthy human beings. The biodiversity hotspot of choice is Madagascar. Madagascar split from mainland Africa about 150 million years ago and is the world's 4th largest island and is located in the Indian Ocean, about 250 miles off the African continent. Due to its isolation, it has tens of millions of years to develop one of the most biodiverse ecosystems in the world. Scientists estimate that 85% of the island's animals and 90% of the plants are endemic, meaning they can only be found in Madagascar. The population density of Madagascar is 146 people per square mile. Madagascar's climate is generally subtropical with distinct wet and dry seasons. The hot, wet season runs from November to April, while the cooler, dry season runs from May to October. However, temperatures vary considerably depending on the altitude and geographical location. The East Coast experiences high rainfall due to trade winds, while the West Coast and Southwest are drier, with the Southwest almost being desert-like. During the dry season, from May to October, rainfall is very low and temperatures are cool. In the driest regions of Madagascar, average rainfall is only 16 inches per year and only 3 inches during the dry season months. These dry conditions give rise to desert ecosystems where cacti and succulents thrive, and nighttime temperatures can dip into the low 50s degrees Fahrenheit. November and April see heavy rainfalls and warmer temperatures, bringing about a lush growing season and plentiful resources for the forest-dwelling wildlife. The east coast of Madagascar receives the most rainfall as it lies in a rain shadow. As warm, moist winds come off the Indian Ocean and meet the mountains, they drop precipitation all along the east coast, forming a tropical rainforest. The wettest regions of Madagascar receive about 16 inches of rain in March alone and up to 132 inches of rain per year, and see high temperatures in the 90 degrees. On average, temperatures in most regions of Madagascar hover between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. However, daily weather and temperature patterns can fluctuate between extremes, with cold night temperatures and high daytime temperatures, sudden downpours, high winds, or periods of extreme drought. According to Conservation Biological Diversity, the general trend of biodiversity degradation for both floral and fauna is primarily caused by the destruction of human practices such as the clearing of natural habitats and the overexploitation of natural resources, deforestation and hunting to be specific. Here we see the projections of biodiversity over the net loss over the next century are showing increasing and bigger percentages of biodiversity losses. To say that conservation efforts are needed is perhaps one of the biggest understatements when addressing Madagascar's biodiversity hotspot. Conservation efforts for Madagascar have seen success. In 1996, the National Strategy for Sustainable Management of Biodiversity, the NSSMB, was established. The principles of the NSSMB are to contribute to the improvement of living conditions of the entire population by reducing poverty based on knowledge, ownership, and a sense of common welfare, to be part of the development process, to take the development of international trade into account, and to promote realistic alternatives. The NSSMB is structured around three orientations: conservation of biodiversity, sustainable valuation of biodiversity, and the reduction of the pressures on biodiversity resources. A notable success in the implementation of the NSSMB and the National Environment Action Plan is the increase in protected areas from 3% in the past to 8% of the country's total area in 2009. The human-dense forest of the East, composed of 6 national parks, has become a nominated World Heritage Site. In addition, reforestation efforts have covered an area of about 35,000 ha in 2008. The fight against brush fires has resulted in a 75% reduction in burned areas compared to 2002. Additional progress has also been observed as a result of the use of scientific data to prioritize key areas for biodiversity, implementation of environmental education policies, and the environmental monitoring system, integration of environmental dimension in sectors, implementation of MACI, Making Investments Compatible with Environments, decree, among other environmental protection programs. Madagascar is a megadiverse country with high concentrations of endemic species. Its ecosystems include many types of forest, savanna, steppes, rivers, lakes, wetlands, mangroves, drylands, and reefs. According to the Natural Habitat Adventures, Madagascar is home to some of the richest biodiversity on the planet. Of approximately 200,000 species known to exist on Madagascar, about 150,000 of them are endemic. With 5,600 kilometers of coastline, coastal areas are composed of natural environments that are among the richest and most diverse on the Indian Ocean region, including coral reefs, mangroves, seagrass beds, and coastal marshes. Two species from the represented categories in the tables on the next few slides. Here we can see the famous Zababa. This unique tree may be familiar to those who have seen the Pixar movie Madagascar. These trees were seen in that movie. Additionally, we also see from the Madagascar movie the lemur's predator, the fossa. This sleek and agile apex predator might be considered a keystone species in this ecosystem role. Here we see native birds and reptiles to Madagascar. Interesting note regarding the Parsons chameleon. It is the largest of its species. This slide we see two beautiful amphibians. The manatee, with its wonderful coloring, acts as a warning to predators to stay away, I am poisonous. As a biodiversity hotspot, I suggest that there are more threatened and endangered species than not. The following slides will display a sample of the threatened and endangered species in Madagascar. First, we see the ring-tailed lemur, which is classified as an endangered species since 2014, where its populations have decreased 91%. The next several slides will display an additional 3 endangered species in Madagascar by different categories, all of which have become endangered by human activity. The first slide here, we see 3 bird species that are endangered. The main cause for their loss is deforestation. Here we see 3 reptiles that are endangered by human activity. It is important to note that the tortoises have experienced an extreme event when natural disasters like floods come, and conservation efforts take priority over those situations. This slide displays 3 amphibians that are endangered in Madagascar. Lastly, we see 3 plants that are endangered. Madagascar's conservation's focus on protecting its unique and endangered biodiversity, particularly lemurs and other endemic species, through a combination of protected areas, community engagement, and habitat restoration. These efforts aim to reduce threats like deforestation and habitat destruction, as well as illegal wildlife trafficking. The conservation threat of endemic species, various conservation strategies, and plans for conservation of endangered species, such as chameleons, crocodiles, lemurs, turtles, and birds, have been successfully developed and implemented. Conservation efforts for the threatened and endangered species take precedence in Madagascar. As a substantially endemic ecosystem, Madagascar is truly unique, is a unique biodiverse environment. However, Madagascar is in extreme danger of extreme loss of species that might dramatically affect human well-being. Continued conservation efforts are needed to save this rich biodiverse area. Madagascar is one of the world's richest biodiverse environments with a substantial amount of endemic and endangered species. Continued conservation efforts are needed to save this priceless ecosystem for nature and human well-being. Thank you.